Do I sound like a robot? I think I might sound like a robot. Anyway, welcome back to another Thoughts On video, where I talk about Destiny seasons as they end because I have nothing better to do with my life as of the time I'm writing this intro. This time we're talking about the season with a name I've been waiting for since Risen, Season of the Witch. Let's get into it. Season of the Witch adds 3 new activities to the game. These are Altars of Summoning, Savathun's Spire, and the Imbaru engine. The Altars of Summoning are a fun, Court of Oryx type activity that feature a variety of bosses and difficulties. That's about it. Fun dialogue, mostly fun boss fights, cool arenas. Savathun's Spire features 2 encounters and 1 boss fight. Has some cool puzzles too. The Imbaru engine is where things get interesting. You don't really fight anything, instead progressing through puzzles. While lore-wise, I think it's kind of a nothing burger, at least before the final test, the activity itself is kinda neat, and I like how the areas change depending on who it represents. Speaking of that final test, it was a pretty good puzzle that had people stumped for a couple hours. It was actually fun trying to solve it with a couple friends of mine. It also forced me to learn the differences in hive runes, some of which I've literally never seen before, or at least wasn't paying attention. The HELM has been given yet another radical update in the form of the Athenaeum. The once Sisorium, still a weird name, was converted into a portal room. The Athenaeum itself is a space where you will find Eris Morn's table of cards and the seasonal menu. The ritual table seems very easy to level up all the way through, and the cards are more akin to Seraph and Splicer's buffs, allowing you to switch things up in Savathun's Spire or the Altars of Summoning. You can get these cards through random drops and by finding them scattered around the seasonal activities. You can also find the Swamp Thing. I named him Jerry. To call Crota's End a reprised raid is an understatement. Not only did the lighting, textures, etc. change, but the actual mechanics and music scripts changed as well. This makes it unique among the other reprised raids so far. The entire raid is focused around the Chalice of Light now, which requires you to switch it between players. Because of that, everything feels different. No longer is Crota killed by a hive sword, but only weakened by it. Iryut requires a lot more to enter a vulnerable state. The bridge is now an actual encounter, and the abyss is annoying as hell. Things are different, and as an avid hater of D1 Crota, I actually like most of these changes. It makes this feel like an actual raid, something the original never really got to do. Now it's nowhere near my favorite raid, but it's a good change. Last season, we had our resident exposition machine, Asa, tell us that Savathun must be resurrected in order for us to figure out how to go through the portal. This was regarded by many people as a bad move. Fast forward to now, we talked with Amaru, and it turns out that the late Witch Queen had a little caveat for her being brought back. Her sister, Xivu Arath, must be dealt with first. Giving us the tools to do it, Eris Morn steps up and literally transforms into a minor hive god of vengeance, ready to tether herself to the sword logic until she's strong enough to beat Xivu. Unfortunately, our tithes aren't retroactive, so we have to kill a whole new gaggle of powerful enemies to speedrun her ascension. Eris describes the feeling as intoxicating, like it gives her euphoria every time she receives power from our bloodlust. This has led to the worst long-standing plot being continued, the "Is Eris evil" plot. Now this isn't exactly in the foreground, but every once in a while Eris will do something out of pocket, and some other character will get worried. The peak of this was Elsie Bray, who lived through many futures where Eris never had any friends during the Shadowkeep era, and was corrupted by... I don't know. The jury is still out on whether Unveiling was a witness or the manifestation of the darkness as the Traveler is to the light, which is what I'm gonna keep calling it until y'all accept it as the Veil due to rewrites. Now, hopping on the Worries About Eris Brigade is Ikora, who I swear to God, every other line of dialogue this season is just, Eris can't keep doing this, and it was driving me insane. Then in the final week of the base story she goes, let's do this. I like the dialogue for most of the season, not for Ikora. Easily the worst. Xivu Arath eventually fully enters the picture, bringing Wrathborn and her own forces into the High Coven to steal our kills. We outpace her and defeat one of her most powerful generals, Ir-Ulgzal, the Leviathan Eater. God, I think I butchered that name. Afterwards, Eris and X are planned to bring back Savathun early and spawn kill her. Easily the best thing Eris has done. Anyway, with the power she gained from the Guardians killing everything in their path, like lawnmowers on grass, as well as Savathun's post-murder by RX death time, she gained an immense amount of power. This allowed her to just ban Xivu from her throne world remotely, rendering her mortal. You do not see Xivu's reaction to this. You do not see her get booted. Eris just grabs a symbol and crushes it. Oh, and there's a whole other half of that cutscene that's in a lore book, and we speak in it. I think it's kind of a shame, since the season had been doing pretty well, seasonal formula aside. This ending was just kind of weak by comparison, solely through execution, because the lore card was great. But it wasn't over. See, we needed Savathun to tell us how to get through the portal and, you know, prevent the death of the universe as we know it. Instead, she did her usual shtick and left, leaving Amaru as damage in the event that we think she's just leaving without answering. Turns out the answer is the heirloom, an Ahamkara egg stashed away in the High Coven's Envaru engine. Turns out, we're not going to figure out some mechanic. Instead, we'll simply wish our way in. The witness is probably furious. At least I'd hope it would be. Anyway, this wish is suggested to be the Wish 15. Now before anyone shits themselves, let me get this out of the way. It's kinda not. Wish 15 was either a reference to the Last Wish raid or something completely different. Whatever it was, regardless, it didn't matter by the time of Beyond Light, when they very noticeably canned everything Forsaken had set up. Ever wonder why the Dreaming City curse is just still going? Yeah. So, in the event someone believes this was the plan all along, let me remind you that this seasonal year only exists because they split Lightfall in two. For all intents and purposes, this is just brought out of nowhere. Will it work out? Well, the final shape happens, so its modern intended purposes will. However, if the curse doesn't end, I'm gonna be furious. I can't do shit about it. God damn. They didn't add a new map. Imaro narrates. That's it. Season of the Witch is the first third season since Drifter to make me go, yeah, that was alright, or better. It was a good story bogged down yet again by the seasonal formula, the same thing that drowned Deep. It also had a weak ending, but a weak ending is infinitely better than a bad ending. That sounds sad, saying it now. With Season of the Wish on the horizon, I guess we'll find out if the next several months will be fun or incredibly boring. Still, it gives me time to finally dedicate a week or more to Elden Ring. Am I forgetting something? Oh, right. So my views of Bungie as a corporation have kind of sullied immensely over the past few years, mainly around the time Beyond Light dropped. What can I say? I hated how Forsaken got treated and how half the game got sunset. I digress. The Bungie I saw in 2014 was seen through naive eyes unaware of what lies below the surface. And that kind of goes for a lot of establishments, but anyway. There's a lot of Bungie's stuff out in the open, from the messy history of D1's development to the controversies that pop up every once in a while from employees who say that things there aren't so peachy keen. I believe them. I did then, I especially do now. Mere hours before Halloween began this year, dozens of Bungie staff were laid off, a decision that reportedly came from upper management. Now, I don't know how well y'all may know me, but I absolutely hate corporate level management. Greed is not the root of all evil, but it's the root of a lot of it. Many names that were popular among the community were removed, some in a baffling move, and I guarantee it was for monetary benefit, shifting out talent to get cheaper people. Look, a lot of my issues with Destiny are not to do with business decisions and have to do with narrative, but I can sense sleaziness when something like this happens. For the love of God, the games industry needs to unionize. It rubs me the wrong way to see so many people's livelihoods threatened, and then for the head of the company to go, "The right people are still working on stuff there," implying that every single person let go was not part of that group. It's a little backhanded, Pete. I realize this is a bit of a shorter video, but I don't really have much to say beyond story stuff and the hit Bungie just took. That's it. Is this still on? You know what? I'm just gonna leave this in. If it's still in the editing bay, if I decide to keep this, but I don't know. Maybe I just got lazy. It's been a rough fucking year, y'all. It's been actually horrible. You know what the worst part is? The silence.